Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the April 5th meeting of the Carson City Parks and Recreation Commission. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll?
Chairperson Case.
Here.
Vice Chair Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner Whitefield.
Here.
Commissioner Caldwell.
Here.
Commissioner Wilkie McCulloch. Commissioner Kiever.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Awesome. Thank you. So I had my agenda up and then I lost it. First up on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Do we have the online public comment still? Okay. No ethereal voices coming up. I know, that's sad. Commissioner Whitefield, did you want to make public comment?
Okay, sounds good. Just want to remind everybody we have the Spring Fling 2022 pickleball tournament coming up on the 30th of April at the MAC. We'll have 12 courts open, and so far we're closing registration on the 20th, and right now I think I have 93 or 94 players registered, so we have a lot of teams playing, and this is going to be an experiment. We've never held a tournament this large all in one day, and want to thank Parks and Rec and the MAC and Dan and Scott for supporting us with this. They're giving us a lot of help, and we have some volunteers that are helping us too. And I think it's going to be a real fun event. So it's looks like it's going to run most of the day. We hope to get started with play around 9 o'clock in the morning, and I suspect we may still be going at 5 or so. So if you want to know what real good pickleball play looks like, that'd be a good time to come out. We'll start in the morning with mixed doubles, so there'll be teams with men and women playing against each other, and then we'll move in the afternoon to men's and women's doubles play. So should be a good event, and hope you can come out and catch some of that. Thank you.
Thank you. We need our pickleball minute added to the agenda. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to item 4, which is approval of minutes from the February 1st meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Yes. Any changes needed? I think so. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes. So moved. And a second? I have a motion by Commissioner Kiever and a second by Commissioner Whitefield. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next on the agenda is item 5, a presentation regarding the Park Program of the Month, Carson Aquatic Facility. Mr. Mike Freeman.
Hello. Greetings, everybody. My name is Mike Freeman, Recreation Program Manager for the Aquatic Facility, for the record. So we're talking about Program of the Month at the pool. So we have the lovely Carson Aquatic Facility across the street here, and we'll just run over a couple of the programs, and then if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer anything that we have. I just have a really quick couple slides showing off a couple of things. And on this first slide, the first thing I want to bring up is some of the capital money that the city's been able to put back into the pool over the last few years. So I did this presentation maybe 4 years ago or so in front of this commission, and it was lovely. And this slide is actually a replicant of that slide, however, with one major difference, and that's we've had stucco repair. So this area over here has all been repaired. There was some damage from weather, rain, time, and then new paint job that just happened over this last year. So that was a nice thing that happened. A couple other things that we've had on here that you can't really see on these pictures, but they're a reminder for me. We had our skylight, which you can see this one, that's scheduled to be replaced over the next year or so. And then we've had one of our main skylights over the front lobby replaced because it was just, again, it was old. Some of the flashing was coming off. So we were able to do that, and the city was generous enough to give us the funding for that. And some other things on that list are things like roof repairs. We're getting a new coating of a new roof put on this next year, which is nice. Replastering all the pools, which needs to be done periodically. So we just had 3 of our pools done over the last couple years, and we have the outdoor pool scheduled to happen this next upcoming year, which will be good. We have a whole bunch of money devoted to plumbing over the last couple of years and the next few years. We've had a couple of failures recently, like last week. Facilities and Public Works and Parks and Recreation are all kind of working together to get those things fixed. And so there's a lot of money going back into the facility, which is really, really nice to see. It's a great community resource, and we like to see it, working as well as it possibly can. And that's what we need to happen for some of these older facilities that just need some attention here and there. So moving on to programming. So here is kind of a more or less comprehensive list of the programs that we have. And I've kind of separated off into 3 different areas. Our daily programming examples, things like just coming in and swimming laps, or just coming in and playing in the pool, going off the diving board sort of thing, open swim. Range of motion, aqua size, deep water fitness classes, different aerobic-like type classes that we use in the pool. Weight room activities, we have a number of patrons who come in just to use the weight room, which is great, which is fantastic to see. I think it's one of the most affordable little weight room gym fitness centers that we have, which is fantastic to see people using that. We're trying to get some money to upgrade that a little bit and make it a little bit more accessible. One of the programs that we have future planning between not just the pool, but between the pool and the MAC and the rec center, and trying to offer is some adaptive style programming for adaptive equipment, some Wounded Warrior, Fit But Not Forgotten type programming. And that's in the works right now. So we're trying to do some stuff with the pool on that, and with the gym on that, with the fitness center on that. So that hopefully we see that soon added to this list. Swim teams, high school swim team, Tiger Sharks club swim team. We'll touch base on swimming lessons and grown-ups and guppies a little bit more. But then kind of to round out our daily programming, and these are more weekly, our drop-in kayak roll session, drop-in water polo. These have been on hiatus since COVID, and mostly because of staffing limitations. They're on the first drop or last drop, first dropped and last brought back programs, because they're the lowest attended. And but they are on our list, and we do hope to bring them back soon as our staffing woes are over. So that's kind of our day. So like if you go to the pool on any given day, those are the typical programs you'll see. Seasonal programming examples, a bunch of different classes. We'll touch base a little bit more on junior lifeguarding and lifeguarding on the next slide. But then we also do community-based CPR, AED first aid classes. We've been incorporating a wilderness first aid class for our programs like snowshoeing and open water kayaking, and some of those outdoors programming. Some of our volunteers need wilderness first aid. So we say, hey, if we're going to offer this class, we might as well open it up. So we've had a couple of, I think Muscle Powered attended one of those classes, and a couple other groups. So that's been really, really good. And then Carson High School swim team, I talked about a little bit. They're under the seasonal programming list because they only participate during high school season, which is springtime, which is now. And then also the McFadden splash pad. So the new splash pad, I guess it's not new anymore. It's about 6 years old now. But we have that running over at McFadden Plaza, usually the first week of June through the first week of October or so. And that's been very, very popular in the summer. It's been very, very good. And the pool staff and the park staff and the park rangers are all kind of coordinate together to help run that. And then our last kind of section of programming that we have, I've called special events programming. So things like swim meets, the NIAA, we have the regional swim meet every year. Every other year we have the state swim meet. We have major club swim meets like Club State every third of November, if you will. We have a kids triathlon that goes on every year, again, taking the last couple of years off because of COVID, but now we're bringing it back this year. It should be a lot of fun. Easter egg hunt, which is coming up in just a few weeks. That's the picture on the lower right there. It should be a ton of fun, too much fun, I think. And then Cassie Pooch Plunge, and we'll touch base on that a little bit more here. Is there any questions so far? Wonderful. So this is the last slide I have, so I'll just talk about kind of where we're focusing our attentions on right now. And kind of our biggest issues with programming right now boil down to staffing shortages. So we just have a lack of lifeguards. And across the board, our youth programs are suffering, our sports programs are suffering, as I'm sure you've seen when you've walked into a fast food restaurant and they say closed, and you say, it's lunchtime, why are you closed? Well, it's a similar reason, right? So our main focus, our emphasis area is lifeguarding and junior lifeguarding to prepare our future staffing needs. So that's what we're really focused on right now, is trying to run as many lifeguarding classes. Junior lifeguarding is 15 and up. Junior lifeguarding is more like the 11. Sometimes we'll take 9 or 10-year-olds, but most of the time it's 11 to 14-year-old range, the middle school range or so. And those have been very popular. So those have been good. So we're hopeful that we see some dividends paid out of those coming up in the future. And then under the same basic idea, but for youngers, is just swimming lessons and our water babies, our grown-ups and guppies class of getting kids in the water early. Because if you don't teach kids how to swim when they're 5 years old and 8 years old and 12 years old, guess what? They don't know how to swim when they're 17 years old and 20 years old when we need them to work, or when we need them to come and use the pool to come swimming and join the swim team and go off the diving boards and things like that. So that's always one of our main goals, is to offer high quality, robust swimming lessons for our public, because I think it's so important. And the stat that I always bring up is swimming is the only recreational activity that will save your life. If you fall in a lake, if you fall in a stream, if you fall in a river and you don't know how to swim, that's it, the end. If you don't know how to ride a bike, if you don't know how to ski, you're probably never going to get in a life or death situation, unless your brother takes you up to the top of the ski resort or something. Who knows? That's on them. But for swimming, it's a little bit more real for me. You see drowning deaths go up every year. And swimming lessons is one of the cures to that, is the more kids that learn how to swim, the fewer drowning deaths we have. And that's a goal we should all strive for. So that's always an emphasis at the pool, is teaching kids how to swim. And then the third area of emphasis for this upcoming year is kind of to try to bring back some of our special events that we've had to nix over the last couple of years. So things like the Pooch Plunge, which are just the most photogenic members of the public that we have. They are always willing to smile for us, which is nice, which we run at the end of the summer in our outdoor pool. And then the Kids Triathlon, which is usually in the middle of July. I think it's scheduled for July 9th, something like that this year. And those programs are we're trying to, and the egg hunt is another one of those where we've had a couple years off. So we're trying to bring them back in a post-COVID world. And we're seeing a lot of excitement for them, which is wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see people getting out and using the pool again and recreating again. And now we're just trying to keep them safe by training new lifeguards up and getting them going. So that's basically all I have for you guys. Does anybody have any questions for me?
So I know I have some questions, but I know my commissioners might have some as well. We'll start with Commissioner Keever and then Commissioner. Okay, perfect.
Madam Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we allot some money to replace some of the equipment in the weight room, or is that something you need us to do?
Mike Freeman, for the record. Yes, that is part of our CIP request for this year, and that goes to that programming that we're talking about, trying to build a more inclusive fitness center, gym. So part of that money is to replace the flooring, because the carpet it's just getting torn up, and we want to replace it with a more, it's not impact rated, but it's like an impact resistant rubberized flooring that you see more typically. It's easier to disinfect. If you drop a weight or something, it doesn't just crack the cement. So the first idea is to replace that flooring, and then the second idea is to update the fitness equipment that we have to be more inclusive equipment. And what that means is basically you can roll a wheelchair in and use the wheelchair like you would use a bench. Okay. So it's just it's designed a little bit to be a little bit less cumbersome for folks with wheelchairs and things like that.
Okay.
But yes, we absolutely did ask for that, so thank you guys very much.
Okay, and don't be shy about asking. We may not always be able to fund you, but, we need to know what you need before we can help you. And then you're absolutely correct about the Pooch Plunge. That was well received. I have hundreds of photos myself. And then just to reassure you, many years ago, I learned to swim through the program when the pool was here.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, we're sitting on what used to be the swimming pool. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Keever. I learned to swim at that pool. when it was open, but there was more outside pool on this side. Commissioner Schutte, go ahead.
you. So how is the lifeguard training coming along?
Yeah, great. Mike Freeman for the record. So our lifeguard trainings, we've had 4, I believe, for this year, and we've gotten a number of great applicants that have come out of that. We have another class coming up over spring break, Carson spring break, which will be not this next week, but the following week or next week. I don't know what day it is anymore. Spring break, Carson High School spring break, whenever that is. And we hope that class looks pretty robust. So we're hoping to get some of the younger generation high school age kids. Our previous classes, we've actually drawn a lot of retirees, senior type. I don't like to say senior.
Baby boomers.
Yeah, the baby boomer generation. And we've got a number of those, which has been really shoring up our daytime shifts a lot. It's been very, very helpful and beneficial. They're just super positive folks. They're in it for the right reasons. They're not necessarily in it for a paycheck. They're in it because they love the swim. They have the same passion that we do for recreation and aquatics. So they want to be there so the pool stays open, which that's why I go to work every day, right?
That's wonderful. I sat in on one of the meetings with the baby boomers, and it was just, these folks are, they love to swim, and they were really just wanting to be a part of the solution. And so I'm so glad that the classes have been well attended. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love to have them, and we love to put them to work.
I understand that WNC doesn't have lifeguarding classes. I think it had been, I had heard somebody thought that they did, but they don't. Is that, can I help with that? Or I mean, is that something that you, in talks with WNC, or is that something that happened previously, or?
So Mike Freeman for the record. So with WNC, no, we've never had, to my knowledge, any lifeguarding classes through the college.
Okay.
And there definitely aren't any going on right now. I would love to have a class up there. That would be great. We have reached out to them. I reached out to them a number of years ago, but we've reached out to them for other things, not necessarily just lifeguarding classes, but things like job fairs, things like, if we can get somebody in to talk to some classes or set up a table at lunch sort of thing. And that doesn't just go for the college, that goes for the high school as well. So I know that's part of our recruitment effort to try to get out there. A number of years ago, we did have a class at the high school, which worked very, very well as well. So that's something that we're trying to bring back as well. We're in talks with them. There's just logistical issues, and we need a teacher over there to help run it, and there needs to be some other stuff that needs to get put in place. So that's always something that we're looking into and looking forward to. WNC would be great to offer a class through them. It's been offered, but I just don't know if it on their side where that really fits in. So
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioner? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Whitefield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wondering, I've just started looking online to see where I might find schedule for some of the major events at the facility. Is there, I haven't found it yet. Is there a place you could guide me to?
Yeah, so Mike Freeman for the record. So on our website, we had just came out with the activity guide this last week. Most of our major pooch plunge, kid triathlon things are going to be found on there. Unfortunately, due to the nature of our shortage as it is, our day-to-day closures aren't necessarily known until the day of, right? If we always try to fill the shift, but if it doesn't get filled, then we can't safely open the pool. So some of those closures, we aren't able to post in a timely manner onto the website, but we do try to do things like post on Facebook. We always put up notes as memos and signs on all of our recreation facilities as soon as we know. So for example, in May, we'll post, we don't post yet because it's a number of weeks out, but once we get a little bit closer, once we have our regional swim meet, and then the Memorial Day swim meet, we always are closed over those 2 weekends, for example. Once we get a little bit closer, we'll post on our social media and our website and things like that. But yeah, the activity guide for most things is going to be your best bet, which is on the website.
I'm really curious more about the major events, the swim meets and so forth, because I have kind of a cross-marketing idea. Ad hoc, what's happened and what we've seen happen in the pickleball community is when there are the major swim meets, we're getting people when they're not, watching their kids perform or not actively engaged, they come over and play pickleball. And we'd like to promote more of that. So maybe we could do some cross-marketing activity or something just to let people know that they could bring their equipment.
Absolutely. Mike Freeman for the record. So there's definitely, I know we have been posting the various pickleball things at the pool, just like the MAC posts some of the pool stuff at the MAC, and the community center does the same here. But yeah, so essentially we have two major swim meets coming up. One is regionals, the high school regional swim meet, which will be a Friday evening and a Saturday all day in the second week of May. And then the Intermountain Classic, which is the first kind of summer swim meet of the year for the summer swim teams, which is Memorial Day weekend. So I think that's the 27th, 28th, 29th, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, those are our two next big, other than the Easter egg hunt, which will be Saturday before Easter. That will be the other, and we're not closed for that. We're open because we want you to come get some eggs.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Those were mine as well, the lifeguard recruitment and then the scheduling and posting on social media and things. So the only thing left for me to say is thank you. And I am a regular at Grown Ups and Guppies. And shout out to Coach Andy. She's awesome. We are there every Wednesday night. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. And just to round that out, Mike Freeman for the record, we're adding, we had such good attendance of Grown Ups and Guppies on Wednesday nights. We're adding another class, and are hoping that the attendance keeps growing, and we have to add another class on Friday nights as well. So hopefully we get 2 on Wednesdays and 1 on Fridays moving into the summertime. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. For the record, I am for that Friday night class for sure. All right, next up on the agenda, it's another for discussion only. Item 6 is the presentation regarding Carson City interpretive programs. My agenda just says Tyler Keever is presenting, so you're going to have to introduce yourself. For the record, the chair was super wrong. There are 2 names here.
It's okay. Hello, everyone. For the record, my name is Lauren Sentner. I'm from South Carolina, and I've been with the department since July now. And we will be sticking to a script just to kind of keep our time correct.
And howdy, I'm Tyler Kerber, for the record.
Yep. We're park rangers for Carson City Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. Today we'll be talking about our park ranger-led programs, how these fit into our daily duties, how they started, what programs we offer, and the importance of these programs, our digital duty belt, the newly improved Junior Park Ranger program, and some upcoming programs we've got. As park rangers, we perform many different job duties on any given day. Daily duties may include anything from maintenance tasks such as cleaning up graffiti, fixing broken fences, and installing signs, enforcement of rules and regulations, keeping our areas safe from hazards such as falling branches and broken glass, patrolling our properties, and of course, leading programs for the public, which is by far one of our favorite parts of the job. So how did these park ranger-led programs start? Back in 2017, Ranger Costello and an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer started a version of these programs, where an AmeriCorps and park rangers led a few programs throughout the year. The goal was to eventually have community members planning these hikes and events to bring out the rest of the community to our parks and open spaces. The programs received a lot of positive feedback. Then another AmeriCorps arrived and continued working on our programs, adding her own to the list. On average, 1 hike a month was being held with less than 20 participants per month. Programs included various activities such as beautiful hikes, yoga in the park, and art in the park. With the more consistent and diverse programs, participation rose. In 2019, Ranger Tyler took over the programs and started leading them. The effect of having a ranger lead the programs was astounding. Reviews were positive, participation numbers went up, and the programs became something similar to what you would see at state or national parks. When Ranger Tyler started monthly full moon hikes, they became extremely popular, averaging about 70 to 80 participants per hike. These programs have become so much more than just educating the public and now serve a larger purpose. They're not only educational opportunities, but they serve the purpose of preventative law enforcement, as we put it. When we lead these programs, each of us puts our own spin on it, showing the participants the area as we see it. They learn our expectations of them, the rules and regulations, the natural and cultural history, and therefore gain a better understanding of the area that they're enjoying with us. We have the opportunity to build relationships with the participants by engaging with them in a friendly way and talking to them about things that interest them. This encourages them to recreate safely and responsibly, and then they might become a good example for others who see their behavior. Ultimately, when they understand better what is expected of them and the importance of these areas, they can develop a sense of ownership and pride, making them more likely to respect our parks, trails, and open space. This gaining of respect and change of behavior makes it more likely for people to follow the rules and regulations we have in place and less likely to do anything where we would have to enforce the rules to them. So what types of programs do we offer? There are 3 types of programs that we offer. That's going to be natural resource focused, historical tours, and Carson City Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces mission focused. For natural resource programs, they're focused on the nature of a particular subject or area, including scorpions, coyotes, birds, geology, fall colors, and so much more. The historical tours are focused on history and include Silver Saddle Ranch tours every other month, as well as tours of Lone Mountain Cemetery. And then the mission-based programs are centered around a specific demographic or goal, such as seeing the full moon, getting kids outside for a tot trot, Junior Ranger Day, or celebrating women outdoors with the Women in the Wild hike. Having such a large variety of programs allows us to get all different kinds of people to join us outside. And you'll see some of the pictures from these programs up there. Now let's talk about the actual participation data. As I mentioned earlier, these programs were started back in 2017 and had only 12 total participants for that year. I didn't include the monthly average for 2017 because we only had a few programs scattered throughout the end of the year, so I didn't find it necessary. In 2018, when the programs became more diversified and regularly occurring, that number increased by 1,342% to 173 participants for the year and an average of 14 participants per month. In 2019, when Ranger Tyler took over and established these programs as park ranger-led programs, the numbers increased another 223% to a total of 559 participants for that year and an average of 47 participants per month. Then 2020 happened. The year started off strong, but when the pandemic hit, numbers dwindled. This resulted in a decrease by 34% to 369 participants for the year and an average of 31 per month. Numbers started to recover a bit in 2021 with an increase of 9% to a total of 403 participants and 34 per month. I didn't include the monthly average or increase in numbers in 2022 because we're still only a few months in, but so far, we've had 74 total participants across the 5 programs we have held. So far in 2022, we've had those 5 programs, and comparing 2020 2022 to 2021, we seem to be on an overall good trajectory for keeping participation up. Due to unfinished construction at one of our trailheads, we had to cancel a program in January, and numbers dropped 90% from participation in January 2021, with 2 participants showing up for the Silver Saddle Ranch Historical Tour. However, we saw a 100% increase in numbers between February 2021 and 2022 with the Night Under the Stars event and the Winter Full Moon Hike programs that we held. March 2022 also showed an increase in participation by 4%, with 22 participants joining rangers outside at Silver Saddle Ranch on a historical tour and at the Wild Horse Trail for the Women in the Wild hike. We're off to a good start and have much in store for the rest of the year. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tyler.
All right, thank you. And the reason we're talking about participation numbers is that's the number of people that we're making an impact on. So we get those people out there, and that's 14 people a month that we're talking to in a non-law enforcement manner. Yes.
Commissioner Schutte?
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to give you a kudo because you're really impacting more people. And I don't know if you're going to talk at all about the Tails and Trails, but that really, I'm in contact with 2 of the people who adopted dogs since then, and it really meant a lot to them. So well done.
Yeah, so some of our programs, we work with other nonprofits. Like recently, we did the Tails and Trails program with the Nevada Humane Society and got 50% of the dogs adopted. So 2 out of 4. But 50% is pretty good. Yes, okay. Well, there we go. 75% of dogs were adopted that day, which is awesome. Yeah, so we've spoken a lot about our in-person programs and how we can relate to the community on a personal note and to educate about our areas on our common rules and regulations. However, we all know what happened in 2020 that made the portion of our job pretty difficult. So when presented with the challenge to continue reaching out to our community, I started to look into ways on how we can use our digital duty belt or our computer tools that we can use to reach a wider range of community members through social media and other online resources. So I put my digital art skills into action, and we started our park ranger videos and started building our social media presence. We created a wide range of digital outreach, like this dog park etiquette video that you see up there, starring yours truly. Yes. Explaining some of the best ways to interact at a dog park so that everyone is happy. And some of our other stuff is outreach that isn't quite as obvious as to what the purpose is. For instance, this recent post we put on Facebook and Instagram is a side-by-side find the difference photo of Ranger Lauren at Carson River Park looking through binoculars, or not, if you look closely. At its surface, you wouldn't expect this post to be really serving any purpose. However, what it's actually doing is reminding the community that Carson City does have park rangers and we're not always in the trucks. This post also makes us look a bit more approachable and advertises a nice spot along the Carson River that some folks may not know about. So it also got some really positive interactions on our social media page that people are interacting with us and the department online, which is nice. All right, some of our other videos and posts include memorable videos like this infamous or famous, if you really enjoyed it, our poop fairy video. This video is important as it reinforces the idea that poop fairies don't exist. And it's important that everyone cleans up after their pet when they're recreating outdoors in our parks, trails, and open space. I think Jen is a big fan of the video. So. There are no words to describe this video. That's great. So I encourage anyone who's watching you guys to go watch it later afterwards. Yes, another great video that continued to serve the community and was starring Supervisor Schutte is the popular Share the Trails video. We got together with Carson Tourism Authority to film it, and then I edited it. It's been a very helpful resource to remind folks that most of our trails are multi-use, and it's important to go slow and say hello as you're recreating out there. All right. You may also be familiar with our upbeat and positive educational videos, like this coyote awareness video with Ranger Moscato. He was one of our former seasonal park ranger aides. We had an increase in coyote reports, so we decided to release this helpful video on coyote habits and how we can avoid confrontation with them. And this video has actually turned into one of our yearly park ranger-led programs, the Coyote Walk. And on that walk, we teach kids on how to haze coyotes as well, so there's no confrontation out there. And like I mentioned, we don't just post videos. As fun as they are, they do take time to make, and they also take time to watch if you're a community member stumbling on one of our posts. So we like to post quick educational things to get the community to engage with us. For instance, this post about a bobcat that we captured a photo on one of our wildlife cameras. We just post some quick educational information with it and see what happens, get some feedback from the community. And then we also had some bear activity in Fuji Park that was fun to post about. These are my favorite things to post about the bears because the interactions that we get are usually 50%. Some people will really like it, and then some people are afraid of it. So it's fun to watch those things transfer. Okay, so as another part of our digital duty belt, I like to design a lot of our graphics, advertising, and posts for the department. I found that I have become quite good at graphic design, which gave us our new and improved Junior Park Ranger program, complete with patches and a new adventure guide. And I included the Junior Ranger adventure guide in our items for the meeting, so you guys should all have a copy of it. I think it's at the end of the PowerPoint in there. And the whole purpose behind it is the exact same as our Park Ranger-led programming and digital presence. It's to create a sense of ownership and respect for our parks, trails, and open space. It's also a great way to relate to the community and promote positive and responsible outdoor recreation. I could do an entire presentation on this program, so I'm going to stick to the script and we're just going to go over a few of the pages here. So in building this new program, we wanted it to be accessible to as many kids as possible and to be able to be completed by as many kids as possible. So there aren't too many requirements to get sworn in, just some basic stuff that every kid needs to do so that we know that they got the Junior Ranger experience that will benefit us and them. So the first requirement is to complete the guide as best as possible. And we say that because out of all 20 pages, there are different skill levels. So some of the stuff might be a little bit harder for a 6-year-old than an 11-year-old. And next requirement is to know how to plan a safe adventure. Kids can work with a park ranger or another adult to plan an adventure on page 4 of the book. It teaches them to know where they are going, what to expect, and to tell someone what's going on in case of an emergency. We all know those stories of hikers that don't tell anyone where they're going and they get lost, and then we don't know where to look for them. So, the next requirement is a new one that we added this year. It's to complete the orienteering course at Carson River Park. This is for the purpose of needing a park ranger to help and/or a learning opportunity on how to identify where you are in the instance you get lost. This is new requirement of the book. We haven't tested out quite yet. And I imagine it's going to be a big hit trying to find their way around Carson River Park with a compass and this pretty adorable map that I created. The last two requirements are fairly simple and assist with getting the kids to have the full outdoor experience at one of our properties here in Carson City. They have to complete at least 3 outdoor activities and list where they did them. So a Junior Ranger here in Carson is not necessarily a hiker or a biker. They can be skateboarders, soccer players, runners, equestrians, etc. Again, we wanted this program to be very inclusive and reach a wide range audience. The reason we want such a wide audience is because of the final requirement, which is to join a park ranger on at least one ranger-led program. So if we can get as many kids on our programs as possible and to work on the adventure guide, we hope that'll encourage safe, responsible outdoor recreation in our areas. And then after completing all the requirements, Junior Rangers can get sworn in and get the patch. And by doing that, to do that, you can see us out in the field or contact us and we can swear you guys in. So we just recently released this ad in the activity guide, and we'll be a bunch on the trailhead soon. So hopefully we can grow our participation base and get a bunch of Junior Ranger adventure guides out there for kids. So you can download the guides online, or you can come into the administration office to pick them up. And I hope here soon you'll be able to pick them up at the pool or the MAC, or you can just catch us at in the field, wave us down, and we carry them in our trucks, so we should have them available for any kid that's interested. And then speaking of the websites, I've diligently been working on our very own Park Ranger focus pages on carson.org. So if you go to carson.org/parks and rec, you'll find a new link called Park Ranger Programs. That page will bring you to our Park Ranger page where you can find information on our educational and historical hikes, as well as all the Junior Ranger resources. So we plan to start promoting this page as much as possible, as it's the easiest way to find our programs and all the information on us and Junior Ranger stuff. It's just another tool on our digital duty belt that will further our community outreach endeavors. So if you haven't been to this website yet, or this part of the site, I encourage you all to visit it and hopefully sign up for one of our programs coming up soon. So upcoming programs we're pretty excited about this year. Kids to Parks Day 2022 will be held at Mills Park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's going to be food, educational booth, music, and the inaugural Junior Ranger Olympics. The Olympics will be an obstacle course set up, which will be the ultimate junior park ranger test. Kids will be able to compete for best time through the course, which includes basic first aid, hail belt obstacles, packing skills, and a few other things. And I want to invite all of you guys to come out there that day and kick it off for us and compete against us in the obstacle course, if anyone's interested in that. Yeah, yes. Yes, yeah, you can just hear us. It starts at 10 a.m. and we want to kick off the event around then. So we want as much members of you guys, of the boards and stuff, to come out there and help us compete in it. Yes, we'll send out an official invite. You guys don't have to remember. We also have tot trots for very young hikers, Silver Saddle Ranch historical tours the first Sunday every other month, and the second annual scorpion scavenger hunt. This year, we plan to formally compete with surrounding agencies like state parks and Washoe County parks to find the most scorpions using a black light. And we'll have more on that as we get closer to it, but I think you can sign up for teams right now. And I'm currently reaching out to the other agencies so we can compete all in one night. Because they do the similar things, so we thought it would be nice if we all competed online and see who got. Last year, we got 84 scorpions. I think Washoe Lake State Park only found about 30, so Carson's better. Yes. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Hope to see some of you guys on our programs, and if there's any questions, we'll take them.
I know we have questions. I have to give a quick apology for mispronouncing your name and for missing Ranger Lauren's name on the program entirely the first time. Commissioner Kiever, go ahead.
Troops, that sort of thing, to let them know about the program, so maybe we could get some more participants that way.
Yeah, we had a Boy Scout troop come up to us at where that picture was taken, National Night Out, and got our information about doing it. I haven't heard from them yet. We've had a couple field trips where we incorporated the Junior Ranger program, and I think we visited the Boys and Girls Club at one point as well and handed out Junior Ranger books. At this point, it's kind of hard for them to contact us back to get sworn in, so we're trying to figure out an easier way where once they're done, they can get sworn in, and it's not, a big hassle.
We have a big swearing-in ceremony at the Kids in the Park event in May.
Yes, yeah. So we want to host 2 Junior Ranger Days a year at this point. So we had a Junior Ranger Day in November, and then Kids to Parks Day will also be that day where they can come and complete the entire guide and get sworn in all in one day. And that's for kids that can't always join us on the programs, so where they can just take one day to come out there, and then families can just do it all in one day and spend time with us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Other questions?
Just
Judy?
sorry, I always talk so much. Again, these kudos, learning the opportunity to learn about whether it's hiking or picking up after your pet or, I went on one of the interactive walks about weeds and it, the learning creates interest and I know that the more I learn, the more I want to learn. And there's so many folks who might be breaking rules or might be doing, not picking up after their dogs out on a single track and not really think about it. And so they're not malicious, they just haven't thought about it. And so these interactive opportunities, it's a great way to explain the whys behind the policy. And when folks understand the whys, then it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then they also then spread the word. So again, great job.
Yeah. I mean, we can spend time with 20 people on a positive hike rather than stopping one person out in the field, right? So it's also reaching a larger base at a time.
I guess I can ask my question now. Ranger Tyler, did you come up with that digital duty belt, the social media,
Yes.
just on your own?
Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I almost cursed on this microphone. That is so dang cool, man. Wow.
Yes.
Serious congratulations and
Thank you.
kudos. That is
Yes.
great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I will see you guys on the next. Yeah. Whew. That's some serious work you're putting in. I'm very impressed. And I will see you on the next hike. Can you plug your social media so that us and the members of the public can find you?
I think it's just the Carson City page. Instagram is Carson_City_Parks, and then Facebook is just Carson City Parks Recreation and Open Space.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I lost my agenda again. 1 second. All right, agenda item 7. This one is for possible action, and Director Budge, you are up with a recommendation regarding fiscal year 2022-2023 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department budget.
I love your enthusiasm. Yeah. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director, for the, less exciting portion of our regular programming. But thanks to the staff for being here tonight. They were great. I know they're headed out, but they're super busy and doing such a great job. And I just want to say we're so lucky to have them. And this budget is to help support all the things that we're trying to do and that you just heard about, the pool and the ranger programs. And there's a lot of ties to what they talked about tonight, planned in our upcoming budget as well. So I wanted to walk you through, if it's okay, walk you through your packet first. And then I want to go through the budget process, so you're aware of the time frame and how things sort of happen with the city and where we go from here. And then I'd like to walk you through, just really briefly, a quick review of our capital requests that we discussed already. I won't spend too much time on that. And then tonight we'll really focus on the operating budget and then our supplemental requests for that. So a supplemental request for the city is basically a request, typically not just one time, but an ongoing expense that we would like to add to our operating budgets. So to kind of orient you to that term, I know some people haven't heard that, but that's the term from the city's perspective. So in your packet, you have a couple exhibits. Your Exhibit A is the Capital Improvement Program Department request. This is a summary. This is a revised version based on the last Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, based on your requests. There's a couple items that are that were taken off of here, and I just want to point those out. One is for the minor CIPs, we had ballistic vests for the park rangers. The sheriff's office has actually advised against that right now. We're working with them on some alternative options that would be most appropriate for them. So we did remove that item just for now. And then we also took off the North Carson. We talked about contributing to that corridor study. That would actually probably be the following budget year. So just for timing purposes, we're still looking at participating in that and working with Public Works and Transportation on that new vision and the corridor and landscaping and possibly allocating some quality of life funding toward that. It would just be the following fiscal year. So we just took it off of this year's request. But other than that, everything should be as we discussed at the last Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Then you have Exhibit B, which is those supplemental requests, and we'll dive in deeper to that in just a minute. But those are the requests from this year. And then these are two-sided. So Exhibit C is just a comparison of our operating budget, expenses and revenue in each of our categories. So each funding area that we have, whether it's general fund, and then the other special funds that we have, and we'll go into that in more detail. And then Exhibit D is the final part of your packet, and it's a proposed organizational chart should we get all the requests that we are having from a staff perspective, and where those staff would be located within our department. So let's start off just by the budget process, and then we can go into each of those. But I just wanted to orient you to what was in your packet. The budget process is a real lengthy process that's actually been going on for several months now. And we spoke about the capital budget at the May 9th meeting. And then we had Internal Finance Committee. We just had that on March 29th. And the Internal Finance Committee consists of the city manager, deputy city manager, the finance director, deputy finance director, the HR director, someone from the district attorney's office, and reviewing every single department's request to make sure they're legally compliant, that they fit with all of our policies and procedures from human resources, and just procedurally that they fit within the city's kind of scope. And then the funding source, to make sure that the funding source is appropriate for the requests, and we talk through all of that. So Dave Navarro, Dan Arp, and I went and did a presentation at the Internal Finance Committee with our supplemental requests. And that has already occurred. We don't yet know there's millions of dollars that are requested, and obviously there's not enough funding for everybody. Every department requested people and services and supplies, so they have really difficult decisions to make. We have the luxury of being creative with our budget because we have access to other funds than just the general fund. We have that quality of life sales tax. We have dedicated funding for open space. We have a lot of ability within our budget to kind of work through our projects and our requests to help try to make some of those things happen. So we're really lucky with that. There's bigger city issues like unfunded mandates for the court system, and juvenile services has great needs, the sheriff's office, you name it. Citywide, we recognize that there's a lot of priorities. So we do our best to try to be respectful of that and try to fund what we can within our existing budget, or matching with grants and other kind of creative funding ways where possible. April 21st is going to be the next sort of big milestone after tonight with the budget process. So that will be where the Board of Supervisors will review the capital requests and the supplemental requests and likely approve the tentative budget. And they'll go through all of the things that we're going through tonight, but on a larger scale citywide. And they'll have to make all those hard decisions. And then typically they'll find, some common ground, approve a budget, and then they'll approve the final budget at some point in May because they have legal obligations to submit it to the state. And I believe that's in June. So there's a lot that has to happen with the city's budget, and that's sort of the process. And then we'll walk you through our department and what we're requesting, and I'm happy to stop me at any time if you have questions on what we're proposing and how we're proposing to fund it. Because it is a lot, so I feel, I know it's a lot to absorb. So let's start just real quick with this Exhibit A. This is a two-sided sheet that's the capital improvement. I don't really want to spend too much in this because we spent pretty much a whole meeting on it last time. But if there's any questions on this, let me know if you have any questions on these items, where the funding would come from, and what the projects entail.
I have one quick question. There's some employees that you're requesting. Is that going to be outlined?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We will go through all of that. Mhm. So yeah, let's start with the capital stuff, and then we'll be heading toward that discussion. Yeah. Any questions on the capital items?
On the tennis courts, and I think I asked this last time, and so sorry, I have different notes going. The 660, is that the total cost? And I know for a while there was talk about having access to grants or matching funds. Is that still a possibility?
That's a fantastic question. It's a difficult one to answer. So right now we have $660,000 allocated. We have half of that is from the ARPA money, which is the federal American Recovery Reinvestment Act, thank you, funds. And then we had capital improvement program money from from this fiscal year allocated toward the project. We also have some funds from the Parks Foundation, I think $15,000, which was left over from the previous tennis group, and they wanted to allocate that toward the tennis courts at Centennial. We're using those funds a portion of those funds from the foundation right now to do geotechnical investigation at Centennial to get all the soils tests, get everything, all the due diligence we need to know to be able to move forward on that. You need to know about compaction, drainage, there's soil density, there's a million things you need to know before we move forward with that project. Tennis courts and the costs of capital improvements right now are just crazy through the roof. I will get back to Centennial, but what's relevant is the discussion on Roscold Tennis Court. So we went out to bid on Roscold. That is 2 courts in a neighborhood park. We had residential construction tax allocated. We had a little bit of an older quote, did design in-house with Public Works, went out to bid, and the project was about triple what our available budget was. So we could not award that bid for Roscoe Park. We went and we're hoping to go through Sourcewell, which the city is a member of, but in state of Nevada, you can't award a contract through, a government joinder bid for construction. So we weren't able to do that, but we did meet with a contractor on site. Commissioner Whitefield was actually there, which was wonderful, to try to look at a different way to be able to get these projects done on the ground and a less expensive, still a good quality, but a little bit less overhead and less with the bidding process. They did provide us a quote, and we weren't able to award that, so it's actually going out to bid now again for a third time. So I'm hoping they're going to be able to put in a quote or a proposal for that project, and we can get that one done. But the costs are just exorbitant for these projects right now. Public Works is having the same issue citywide. The majority of the projects that are not that don't have tight time constraints, Public Works is putting them off for about a year, just because the material costs, supply chain issues, change orders, they're really significant. Right. So to get back to Centennial, this is requesting an additional $660,000 to try to get to all 8 courts being redone. We would like to have the entire complex safe and usable, so we can bring in tournament play and we can have a dedicated tennis facility, and I think that's what the tennis community would love to have. Whether the board will approve this or not, that is unknown. As far as grants go, I have written a USTA grant before. They're very small, unfortunately. They're typically $20,000, $25,000. It's great if you're just trying to meet the need at the end. I had a conversation today with Commissioner Meyer, and he's dedicated to help us as well. And we were talking about some private foundation money that we'd like to pursue. Knowing that we have $660,000, let's say the board doesn't approve this budget, I think it's a great way to go to foundations and say, we have half the money. Right. Can you meet us? We could rename the facility after your foundation. We could, we want to partner with you and make things happen. I'm dedicated to doing that. We have some commission support on that as well. But the current funding that we have in the existing budget is not sufficient to do that project.
All right.
So, I mean, it's not great news, but we will get there.
We'll get there.
People are just going to have to be patient. And right now, we could maybe do 2 courts, and it really bothers me. I want to redo that entire facility and make it safe and usable for the public to enjoy, rather than piecemealing it and then it ends up costing more. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. Exactly.
I had a quick question. Have we got anywhere with the school district in using the tennis courts at the high school with the joint usage agreement that we're in with the school district? I know that when there was people coming in and wanting to use courts and so forth, and it was concern that for so many years they used our courts until the time that they had their courts, and not using our courts anymore and not letting us use their courts. So
We did meet with them. They were open to that idea. I do know, I don't want to say any names, but one of our community members, they are working with the school district and having some play for the public, and some games and some use at the courts. So that has happened. We have talked about working with them, and maybe getting like a code or something we can help work on a schedule with them. They were definitely open to that. With the superintendents changing, I'm not sure if we maybe need to revisit that at some point, but I know the operational staff was very supportive of getting in that direction.
thank you very much.
Any other capital improvement program questions? Okay. Well, let's move on to Exhibit B. And I think actually at the same time, if you want to look at Exhibit D and B at the same time, they kind of complement each other. So I think you've all heard, and I think you fully recognize our staffing needs, and they're pretty dire in some areas more than others, but across the board, we really need support from a labor standpoint. And we are struggling from the seasonal aspect. And one of the budget items that you'll see is that minimum wage mandate. And that's a request. We have to, by 2024, we have to be at $12. And it's not just that easy being at $12, but you also want scales that complement that. So when the $12 an hour employee, the supervisor needs to pay more, so we have to adjust scales accordingly. So that's a little bit over an $80,000 request alone, but we have to get to that point and to be competitive. You look at Starbucks and fast food places around town, and they're paying $14, $15 an hour. My son works for City of Reno as a lifeguard, and he's making $14 an hour, and ours are making $10.75 here. So there's a real inequity seasonally for those staff. But what I'm really seeing too is the impact on full-time staff, because we're so short-staffed seasonally. We are having to cancel programs, and we have waiting lists. We've closed 2 before and after school sites because of lack of staffing. We have 1 pool usually at any time at our facility that's closed. We only have 1 park maintenance seasonal right now without inmates. I mean, we're just significantly down across the board. So we're seeing some impacts from the full-time staff, and I worry about the bandwidth of the full-time staff, their morale, and I don't want any of our really talented, wonderful full-time staff to leave. So we recognize that we have to kind of look at things a little bit different. I'll start with the pool since Mike was here. I think it's kind of timely. We're proposing a supervising lifeguard position, and this was traditionally a seasonal position, and we're looking at hiring a full-time benefited position at the pool. So basically, same type of pay scale, but they would get PERS benefits into retirement and health benefits. But, you know, someone that we know is going to show up at the pool, someone that can help. Mike, right now, he didn't mention it, but he's lifeguarding every day. It's a pretty expensive lifeguard. He's wonderful and dedicated, but that's not a long-term solution. You know, we need some more support. So in order to get that and fund that supervising lifeguard, we're willing to give up some of our seasonal money and put it toward that. But still, obviously, having enough seasonal money. Right now, we're not spending it, so we do have some cost savings in our budget to be able to have that happen. How popular that will be and how many applicants we get, I'm not really sure, but we're really hopeful. We're looking at a lot of, across the country, there's a lifeguard shortage, so people are trying to do things in a different way. So that's the seasonal lifeguard position. To help supplement our kind of labor shortage, we've had traditionally an AmeriCorps position for our volunteer coordinator, and they've been really wonderful, but they're on for 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year, and then it takes us almost that long to get a new one. So we have these vacant gaps in between having a volunteer coordinator, and I think if we had consistent, full-time, dedicated volunteer coordinator staff, which would be 1 full-time person, we would have a more regular labor force to help supplement some of these areas, cleanups or maybe even skilled groups, and just trying to do that. Our volunteer coordinator, Amy, right now is wonderful. She's through Great Basin Institute and AmeriCorps, but she'll be done in June, and then here we go starting over again. So we're proposing a full-time position. 90% of that would be funded through Quality of Life Open Space, and the other 10% would be the existing AmeriCorps money that we have in the general fund to just contribute toward that. So there's no general fund ask with that request. Also in open space, we're looking at adding an open space maintenance worker to help support that staff. We just have so much field work that needs to be done, and they have such a small team. We need more help there. Looking to add some more park maintenance workers to our park maintenance team. Adding a recreation coordinator for sports. You know, we have a good problem. Most of our programs are full with waiting lists in a lot of areas, but in sports, we really haven't been able to meet the demand of the community. We get a lot of requests for toddler age programs, sports tournaments. We could really be able to expand, especially in a sports avenue. Also, Scott Chapman is the only recreation manager that doesn't have 2 members of his full-time staff team to help support what he's trying to do, and we'd really like to try to expand that. And then this one's as directed from the Board of Supervisors at their board retreat, would be adding an arts and culture position to the team. So the proposal is to fund that from the general fund and the redevelopment fund, and they would work cooperatively with the Culture and Tourism Authority. There's an arts and culture staff person there as well, and doing arts and culture programming for the city. And that's, you'll see that on the organizational chart too, reporting to Dan, if that's accepted. So that's sort of the overview of the staffing needs. Also on Exhibit B, we've requested some changes. The janitorial staff, we have some seasonal staffing money, 42,000. Facilities maintenance is really struggling getting any seasonal janitorial staff, so they're proposing hiring a full-time person, and we would contribute that seasonal money that was already identified for janitorial toward that request that they're making. We have a request for services and supplies for junior park ranger guides. We're trying to be creative and create like a seasonal retention incentive program. So try to make it more fun while you're working here. Hey, you showed up this month and you did all the things you said you were going to do, or we saw you go out of your way for a citizen. You're in a drawing. Here's a gift card. Trying to be creative. We're trying to make it. Parks is the fun department to work for, and we want those seasonal staff to really enjoy working here, and we want to keep the ones that we do have. So you'll see that in there as well. And I know that's a lot. I think that's most of, if not all of the staffing requests that we're going to be asking for. Any questions on the staffing?
Kurt Meyer, could you explain to me the recreation program coordinator sports and what the funding means as far as GF Youth Sports Association?
So right now we have a general fund, so GF is general fund, a Youth Sports Association account. And we have funding in that account. It helps offset lighting costs and other direct costs for that. We currently don't utilize the entire budget for that amount. So it'd be reallocating existing services and supplies toward that position. That position would be the new YSA point of contact. It would most likely be the new Culture and Tourism Authority point of contact too, as well, for like endorsed events with the city. So we have one dedicated person to work with that.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's not. Inmate labor, I know at one point we used a lot of inmate labor because they received a reduced salary in exchange for a day off their sentence. We don't use them currently right now, correct, because of COVID and all? But
Currently, we have an existing contract that we just renewed with the State Department of Corrections.
Okay.
The agreement is from anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50 an hour per inmate. Unfortunately, there's really limited inmates available. They haven't been able to provide any, and there's no estimated time for when they could start providing that.
Okay.
So we're sort of operating off the assumption that they won't be available for quite some time. But it was a 20 full-time equivalent staff.
Nice. When we do get them back, at any point, would they be impacted by this minimum wage requirement? Would we have to pay them the minimum wage, or could we?
No,
Would we
we would
s-
not have that.
Okay.
That effort at the legislature did not go through.
Okay. So that way, once we
Unless-
can get them back, we'd have that pool of.
Well, we have that
labor.
existing agreement for that dollar amount. Should they have some available, we would love some additional support.
Right.
We do have a lot of new park maintenance staff. I think the timing right now with having inmate labor and new staff could be a challenge, but I don't anticipate it, at least this growing season, for inmate labor. So unfortunately, probably this next fiscal year, it's likely that we won't have any inmates, from what we're hearing from the state. Some of it's COVID related. Also, the qualifications, they're understaffed at the Department of Corrections, so they have to be able to, process things. So there's challenges all across the board with being able to provide it. It sounds easy, but it's unfortunately a real challenge for them to be able to provide us with inmates.
Okay, so once all the stars are in alignment, we might be able to have that labor pool as a resource someday.
We hope so. And then another thing that I forgot to bring up as well, speaking of that, is you'll see an item proposed $188,000 for contractual services. So because we're lower in staff, we're not trying to just add staff to solve the problem. We're trying to do a combination of contractual services and labor. And the contractual services would support landscape maintenance and snow removal at all the city buildings, which currently our department provides. And when we have no staff, we're just trying to focus at least on parks for now. So we're proposing contracting that out to help offset our staffing issues.
Wait, Commissioner Whitefield and then Shooty? Okay, Commissioner Whitefield, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jen, I want to go back for just a minute to capital improvement because I probably don't understand the process here, but in our February meeting, there were a lot of items on the capital improvement list that were not funded by general fund. So, or at least the funding wasn't completely from the general fund.
If this is a two-sided sheet, so those are all.
I missed it?
Yeah, those are all on here. So there's some shared expenses. So some are from residential construction tax for like Blackwell's Playground. That's not general fund. We have open space requests. There's some shared expenses between the open space division and the parks division, sharing those equipment. There's matching funds from Duncan Golf. They're doing bunker improvements at the golf course. We're going to focus on path improvements to meet the match requirements in our contractual agreement with them. There's Parks Foundation match for the secondary access to Pete Livermore. We just did the cultural clearances for that park, and that was funded through the Parks Foundation. Are those the ones?
Well, there was ARP funding on a particular project of my interest, and I didn't see it on here.
Oh, sure. These are new requests.
New requests.
These are new requests, not existing funded. So the pickleball courts you want to talk at Mills, that's in this year's budget.
So that's already there.
That's already funded and available. These are all new.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. The budget stuff's complicated. There is no wrong question. Trust me. So is there any questions or concerns on the staffing requests?
I do have a question, but I think I see Commissioner Wilkie McCullough joined us.
Oh, good.
I think so. If you're there, just give us a hi so we can mark you present. I do have a question. Hi, there she is. She's here. On
No,
the
I didn't have any question. I think I pushed the wrong button. But great work by staff.
on the gas tax portion,
Mm-hmm.
how does that work to offset costs? Because my understanding of a gas tax is it can only be used for like very specific road highway construction. So how do we reallocate that?
So the gas tax is typically not a funding source for us, but we do have $28,000 that we use to hire seasonal park maintenance workers to take care of rights of way along the street. So if we can contract that out, we can contribute that funding because we're not able to fill those positions anyway toward that contract. So that's the offset. That contract will only be, rights of way and then the city buildings. So it would be appropriate use of those funds.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Let's
Okay.
go some more.
All right. I know, super fun. So then Exhibit C is just a comparison for you for our expenses versus revenue. And I just want to point out, you'll see a significant difference between 2021 and 21-22. And really it is the 2021 are actual expenses. And then the 21-22 in the blue is what's budgeted. So our expenses were significantly lower, especially during COVID. We didn't have seasonals, we had facilities closed. So that's the discrepancy in those numbers. So I just want to clarify that they're actuals versus what's actually budgeted. And that's a pretty big difference in some areas. And then we have our revenue, and obviously our revenues were down significantly just because we weren't operating, and we're still not operating at full capacity. Like even just with the example that Mike had tonight with the pool, we were trying to get all of our programming back, but it's hard to keep everything open and be available to the public to be able to get those revenues in. Is there any questions on the funds that we have too? I want to make sure everybody understands where our funding comes from. So if there's any questions on those, let me know. We didn't really touch on this, but we do have, an enterprise fund is the cemetery fund. So with our cost recovery goals, we're supposed to cover all of our costs. The cemetery used to be in the red pretty significantly. We've really turned that around. We're in the black now. We've added staff to that fund. I think we're really doing well. We have the new fee schedule that you guys approved, and we're on the right track in making sure that that stays in the black. And so that's going really well. We also have a landscape maintenance district at Schultz Ranch. So that's partially funded by the city and partially funded by all the homeowners that live out there. And that covers all the operation and maintenance expenses for all the park improvements and the common area landscaping in that community. And then we have residential construction tax, which is in NRS. So when you pull a permit for a new home construction, $1,000 of that permit goes towards neighborhood park development. So that's where that fund comes from. Any questions on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jen, going forward, are we going to implement the landscape maintenance district on the Schultz Ranch and that one, not Schultz Ranch, but Lumpa, and the one up on Mountain Street? I forget its name, even though it's been controversial, but yeah. But going forward, are we going to implement that on future housing developments?
We are for Lampa. There will not be a landscape maintenance district for Anderson Ranch, but under my director's report, we'll talk about Lampa and possibly scheduling a special meeting to discuss the implementation of that landscape maintenance district. So we'll be talking about that soon. And then for Anderson Ranch, it is a homeowners association will be funding all of the, or taking care of all the improvements.
Any other questions?
I think that's it. I know that's a lot to absorb. So if there's any questions on the budget, let me know. If you wanted to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, you can. It's not required, but I would love it. But only if you're comfortable with doing so. I know it's a lot. You already had a recommendation at the last meeting about the capital budget. So if you wanted, you could talk about all the things we did tonight, or you can make a more focused action item. Is there any concerns about what's proposed or any? I do want to be really transparent that what we're showing you tonight is likely not what's going to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. I really recognize that they have some really big issues citywide to solve, and they can't solve all of our problems with the budget. But I do hope that some of this moves forward, and especially the staffing needs. And I think we've tried to be as creative as we can and tried to fund what we can within our budget and not rely too heavily on the general fund.
I think we have to speak up for ourselves with the Board of Supervisors. So I would propose that we make a recommendation to them to accept our budget proposal. To the Board of Supervisors, though.
I think I can't imagine how many hours you and your staff have spent on this. I know it's a lot. And I think we probably are not in a position to completely analyze this on the spot. I know I looked at it ahead of time and it's still head spinning, but I agree with Commissioner Caldwell. I think we need to speak for Parks and Rec and open space and say this is what we'd like to have, and hope we can get as much of it as we possibly can. So I would certainly support an action to show our support to the board.
If you need one, there's a draft proposed motion if you need some help with that.
Oh. Where? Oh,
I'll accept a motion.
All right, I'll make the motion I move to recommend that fiscal year 2022-2023 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department budget to the Board of Supervisors as discussed.
Cool. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilkie, were you supporting that budget motion?
Yes.
There's a slight delay, so we almost counted you opposed. Okay, that passes unanimously. Good luck at the Board of Supervisors. Do you
Thanks
want
so
some
much.
backup there? We can
Do you
call
want-
in.
Do you want support? We can be there.
You are more than welcome to help support us. We totally appreciate that. April 21st would be the opportunity for public comment on any of our capital operating budgets. So if there's any questions, I'll make sure I get the agenda and can let you know maybe what time that might be so you can try to plan your public comment or your day around that. But we would appreciate any support, or if there's a spokesperson from the commission based on what you did. I don't know if we need any direction for that, but.
Ben Johnson, Senior Deputy District Attorney for the record. Anyone's free to come and make public comment. However, you would be doing so in an individual capacity. You're free to reference the fact that you're on the commission and that you supported this, but you wouldn't be speaking on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission itself.
Perfect. We are pretty intimidating, Commissioner Keever and I, so we're the muscle. I'm ready.
All right.
We're glad you're on our side.
Gosh, the budget is so depressing. Item 9.
I know, I'm sorry to bring it down after our great staff.
Well,
I just want to give all the money to Ranger Tyler and be like, yes, go. Educate the children. Let's do this. Member announcements. Do we have an update from the Carson City School Board Liaison?
I think you missed item 8A.
I missed item 8A,
Well,
the
you're just
director's report.
whipping us through here.
I know you're already tired of me. I'm so sorry. You have your Board of Supervisors action items, so if you have questions, I'm not going to harp on that. Tonight, I gave you some late material. This is really some homework.
It's fun reading.
I just want, you don't have to read it now. You don't even have to absorb it now, but I just wanted to sort of introduce the subject to you. And Commissioner Keever had a very timely question about Lampa Ranch. And here's a picture of the Lampa Ranch North specific plan. And so it shows you a map of where that proposed development is. And you've seen there's already dirt moving. There's a lot of action in progress. There's multiple developers. It's actually a very complicated project. But park staff is working really close with Public Works and Community Development in working with developers. And there will be they would like a landscape maintenance district initiated for Lampa Ranch. So I was hoping to have it on this agenda, but unfortunately all the paperwork that goes with development of a landscape maintenance district just was not quite ready for you to present. So we may need to schedule a special meeting. I want to just give you a heads up. It would likely be in the end of May because it does need to go to the Board of Supervisors by the second meeting in June. So to just give you some time frame, the Board of Supervisors has to approve and initiate everything, but there's multiple steps to create a landscape maintenance district. It starts with a petition, which you'll see, I give you a copy of the code, which is Title 17.8, Chapter 17.18, Landscape Maintenance Districts. And all of the steps has to go through. And basically, the developer submits a petition, and it has a bunch of components in that petition. They submit it to me as the Parks and Recreation Director. I send it out to all the department heads to get comment. Concurrently, we get feedback from the Parks and Recreation Commission to make sure that all of our I's are dotted, all of our T's are crossed, and it makes sense for the community to do so. There is a condition of approval with the Lampa Ranch development that will be created. But this one will be a little bit unique. It will only be for the drainage areas within this in the development. And I don't want to say subdivision because there are some commercial components within Lampa Ranch. So I'm going to try to catch myself and say development rather than subdivision. because there are some of those aspects. And within the project site, all of those property owners will pay into that landscape maintenance district. The drainage areas will become owned by Carson City, and then you have that landscape maintenance district to fund the operation and maintenance of those drainage areas. The drainage areas will be overseen by Public Works, not Parks, but the mechanism to create a landscape maintenance district, because it was envisioned mostly for parks and landscape areas, was to go through the Parks and Recreation Commission. So it's our function as this board here to be able to enable landscape maintenance districts where possible. And it's at the recommendation of the Board of Supervisors, but you are really the body that does that due diligence and looks at everything and makes sure it is the right fit for the community. So I wanted to just give you just a simple map and a copy of the code so you can kind of wrap your head around that piece of it. And then what we'll do is we'll probably have, I don't see it lasting more than 20 or 30 minutes. It would be a one-item meeting just for that, to review the landscape maintenance district. I'll make sure you get an overview of those, what the process is, and really a more in-depth presentation for your consideration. The Lampa Ranch will also have a homeowners association. We are going to have a 10-acre park on the west side and a 3-acre dog park on the east side. The 3-acre dog park will be right across the street from the animal shelter. We put that in the conditions so that way the Humane Society can actively use that. They can go exercise dogs as well as the community, and it's really close by. We've heard from the community, we need another dog park. So that's already in their conditions. The timing of when that will be built, I can't tell you yet. The west side, there will be a 10-acre park, and I'll tell you the west side is hopping. You see the graded, they're mass grading, they're doing utilities, they're really going after it. So I actually see that park site happening likely before the 3-acre dog park, believe it or not. They're already putting in utilities and roadways and networks and all the supporting materials for that. So the drainage facilities is a component of the landscape maintenance district. So for Schultz Ranch, for example, we added all of the drainage facilities out in Schultz Ranch within the landscape maintenance district at the board to make sure that those assessment districts make sure that all the pipes are cleaned and all of the drainage areas are functional, and which is part of a healthy community out there. And there is a pretty major flooding component and drainage facilities within Lampa Ranch. So we want to make sure that that happens. So the Lampa Ranch Landscape Maintenance District would only be for drainage facilities, overseen by Public Works, but funded by 100% by those property owners within the project. Does that make sense? It's a lot, I know. So what we would do is we would likely create a special meeting for you guys to consider that, as long as the paperwork is complete for you to be able to review. We met with the DA's office yesterday and getting those cleaned up. Those documents, that petition and all the supporting documents that go with it just have to be approved by the developer, and we have to get that back in time to be able to present it to you. What I'll probably do is I'll have Patty reach out to all of you to see what your schedules are like in the end of May. And we could probably do a combination in-person virtual. I know a lot of you work full-time and have children and a lot of commitments, so we could try to maximize the schedule if possible. So maybe it doesn't have to be a night meeting. We could maybe do it during the day if we can find a time for a quorum. Yeah.
Is it worthwhile to have a representative from the Public Works Department in that meeting to
Talk about the drainage facilities?
talk about the drainage facilities?
Sure.
And I guess the commission, as a commissioner, I'd want to hear that they're on board with everything that we're approving and so forth, much as if we were telling us as the director
Sure.
of the Parks and Recreation Department that you are, and this is a unique situation. So either Darren or one of his people could come and say, hey, this is what's going on, and we could see their face and know, since this is a new process.
Okay, happy to do that.
Jen, in that same light, would it be beneficial if we had a representative from the developers there at that meeting, do you think?
I can request that.
I just,
Sure.
They may be able to answer questions that come up that we aren't thinking about right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quick question. I've just skimmed this, but I see in 17-18-110, allocation of public money to pay the cost. Are we saying that there is no cost to the public for this? It's completely funded by the,
All of the property owners within the project site on your map will contribute to the landscape maintenance district. There is public money. There's a proposed school site, and the school will actually contribute to the landscape maintenance district because the drainage areas support those properties. So all the property owners within that, which there's only a few right now, but that may change. So if it's, let's say, 4 property owners right now and it ends up being 100, the 100 property owners will still contribute. But that same geographic area that's assessed will not change.
so will we have some idea of what the associated costs to the public might be
There's-
ongoing?
Yeah, they're supposed to submit a financial plan with their petition so we can see what the proposed assessment would be. I have not seen that plan yet. Did you see that? Okay. So if you, as homework, could orient yourself with Landscape Maintenance District, Chapter 1718, that would be very helpful for our special meeting. And I did get another deputy district attorney to promise that he would attend the meeting, so Ben didn't have to be there. So,
But we love Ben.
well, we do love Ben, but I know their time is. Well, I've been working with Todd Reese on all the landscape maintenance district stuff, so he's our guru right now.
I don't suppose there's a version of this with more pictures and fewer words.
I wish. That's how I roll too, so.
Drive down Fifth Street and see a pretty good way the drainage is coming together.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Any other questions for me? Okay.
When is the homework due? We should have this read and understood.
Like mid to late May would be
Okay.
great.
Perfect. Before the holiday.
And really just the ones on approving it, you can just focus on that. The operation and after an LMD is already initiated, don't worry about those sections. But I wanted to make sure you had the whole code.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Now that I've really overwhelmed you, I'm done.
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's been a thrilling Tuesday.
Yes.
We've got budgets and landscape maintenance agreements.
I know.
Whoa. Is it okay if I move on to item 9 this time? Trying again. Member announcements update from the Carson City School Board Liaison.
Thank you. Well, unless you've been under a rock for the last 2 weeks, you know that we are starting a new superintendent search, or at least trying to decide what we're going to do to fill that position. The board submitted a contract to Dr. Goldhart and it was rejected. So we have a special meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock if the public's interested to figure out where we go from here. And the kids are getting ready for spring break. And that's all I have to report.
Well, thank you. 9B is an update from the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation. Do we have that? Nobody. That's such a bummer. Item 10 then is future agenda items. We're going to go back to number 9 for member announcements. We love number 9 tonight.
We love number 9. Couple things. After our last meeting, the disc golf community members of it reached out and they took me on a tour of the disc golf course out there. I was impressed. I don't know if I'll ever play, but I had a great time out there with them. They explained the game and all the various discs, heavy ones, light ones, everything. It was. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. So we're going to go out and do it again someday. And then Commissioner Whitfield and I want to give kudos to the staff for the redesign of the Kings Canyon parking lot and the realignment of the driveways up there. We're thinking that's going to go a long way to having resident satisfaction and not having them bothered, shall we say, by users of the trail. It's looking really good up there, Jen. A lot of hard work and thought went into that. So we're both impressed by that.
I had occasion to drive up there several times. It's close to my house, and it really is a major improvement. The widening of the road is fantastic. The parking lot is very nice. Hiked it last weekend, and I think I counted 22 or 23 cars in the parking lot at the time. And I couldn't remember from the maps when we looked at the project what the little section across from the paved section is that going to be paved, or is that
I
what the
think
purpose-
that'll be like type 2 base gravel trailer parking.
Yep, that's
So
horse
off-highway
trailers.
vehicle, or if someone had an equestrian.
Okay, I noticed the curbing was set so that it could be easily, and there were cars parked, some trucks and cars parked there. I didn't see any trailers. but
Yeah, and typically, like if you have an equestrian user, they don't like to
Park on that.
trailer their horse on asphalt. So usually you provide like a gravel or dirt area for that.
Yeah, and the new section of trail, to adjoin was, it was pretty rough because it had been wet and then dried and it's not prepped yet, but that's a nice gentle slope leading to it. I did see several people trying to use the old entrance to shortcut it, but it's pretty well blocked off, and
It is.
the signage is on the closed portion is not completely. I didn't think it was completely clear that you shouldn't go that way.
Okay.
It kind of said, this is closed. The entrance is, to the south or whatever, and it didn't seem to be stopping people. So maybe we could.
I'll let the staff know. It's still, a site that's under construction, so it's not really ours. So we have to kind of have a delicate dance with the contractor and Central Federal Lands, but I'll let staff know. And then I did want to let you know on that note, June 4th on a Saturday at 9 a.m. is National Trails Day, and we'll have the dedication for that facility. And it's going to be a working day too for trail work, because there's going to be a reroute of that trail over to the waterfall and some cleanup of that trail component.
Really nice plaque there too already about the Border Ranch and some of the history. I thought that was really
It is nice.
nicely done.
And then I have one last question. Kind of liability, Jen. We've been going out to Fuji Park, and I've noticed that people there tend to leave their small dogs and their children unattended on the small dog side. If something were to happen, does the city have any liability, say if a child were to get bit or wanders off or something, or is that something we even need to worry about?
That's really unfortunate that people are doing that. And I encourage anybody that sees something in our parks, trails, or open space to report it immediately. I would call 887-COPS.
Okay.
And that they can dispatch a park ranger if appropriate, a sheriff's deputy if appropriate, depending on the instance. We have 7-day-a-week coverage with our park rangers, but not 24 hours a day. And they do, get sick and have vacations, and they're not
Okay.
always on. But we do provide dispatch with our park ranger schedule, so they know if somebody's on. Also, if there's an animal control issue, they can dispatch an animal control officer as well.
Well, I just had visions of a child wandering off or getting taken or something.
But no, I mean, there's definitely laws in place, and you shouldn't abandon your children, and no, the dog shouldn't be babysitting your children, and all of those things. But yeah, I think if you see something, I would say something, and the best way to do that is calling non-emergency dispatch.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm unclear on the Kings Canyon Trailhead. Is that open or is it not? Because you have to drive past a sign that says road closed to get to that parking lot and park.
We have not accepted the project from the contractor, so it's not open. They're doing their best to keep it closed, but it's an impossible task. It's so popular and so many people, they just cannot handle it. But
So it is what it is.
it is what it is. But I would recommend letting the contractor finish so we can get them done and out of
Out
there,
to
so
the-
we
out
can
to
have
the
it
public.
open it.
Let's
Yes.
wait until get it
But
done.
people
and-
are using it every day, and we do have, there's signage up, but it is confusing. People are stealing them, people are taking them home, they're vandalizing them. I mean, it's an ongoing challenge.
I didn't see any road closure signs when I was up
I
there.
think the road is fully open, but I think the trailhead's still under construction, and there's other components that are not done yet.
Yeah, I rode up on Saturday on my bike past
Yeah.
a
I haven't
a
been up for a
large
couple
road closed
weeks,
sign,
but
so. And I said, not for bikes, and I just kept,
anyway, June 4th.
thank you very much.
I just want to celebrate community for a moment. A few weeks ago, the Solomon Walking Path clean up, and Mary Kay Raponi and her husband Michael organized this cleanup, and they worked with Parks and Rec, they worked with Public Works, Tyler Curver and Amy. Yes, Brigham, I forgot her last name. Anyway, they were there, and everybody worked really hard, and it was really fun. And, in a matter of 2.5 hours, it went from the pathway with all the weed barrier coming up, and it just it looked messy and worn, nobody's fault. And just the community got together, or the neighborhood, and we cleaned it up. And kudos to having a great idea and following through with organizing and working with the city, but being part of a solution. It's super easy to point out problems. It's also really easy to ask hard questions, but it's not easy to be a part of a solution. And so this was just wonderful. Again, the Tales and Trails, that was such a great day. And, just again, the effort of staff and your staff, I just see them everywhere. And it's just they're wonderful representatives for Carson, and they're appreciated. So thank you, because your leadership is wonderful. And the Carson Water Subconservancy District, the forum, 3 people from Parks and Rec spoke. Greg Bergren and Georgia, I'm forgetting Georgia's last name. Vasey. And then Lindsay Boyer, and they all gave presentations and, talking about trails, talking about watershed. It was great. And so the wealth of knowledge that that our staff have are really, it's wonderful. So yay.
That was better than the budget, just in terms of bringing the spirits back up. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's why we need the budget. Future agenda items, does anyone have suggestions? This is item 10. Go ahead, Jen.
Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I did want to just bring up to you that the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting coming up, the 3rd Monday of this month, they'll have the Prison Hill master plan on that agenda. I know a lot of you are kind of following that. If you wanted to attend that meeting or even just watch it online to be up on that. I know a lot of you have interest and have been asking me about that.
And then just personally, I'd asked after the February meeting if we could maybe do a special budget-only meeting in January, so that way we don't have this packed agenda that's budget and all of the other items. Well, thank you. I have a hard time staying awake that late in the winter. I'm like a bear. I just want to go to bed and eat. So if we could talk numbers only at one meeting and then do the regular February meeting, I would appreciate it if the other commissioners are okay with that.
Okay.
And of course, and staff.
And, we've had this at Open Space as well, but I know there's been a desire to take like a field trip or a tour. It doesn't even have to be tonight, but if there are certain places you want us to be able to go to, we could try to arrange, a one-time tour for maybe jointly with Open Space or separately as a commission. But we do have to post it, and go through all the public meeting items as well. But I know that really helps people kind of see what we're working on and look at projects on the ground rather than from this room. So we can look at that maybe toward the end of the year or something if you'd like also.
Could it be a muscle-powered tour? You do like a bike skating stroller event?
I don't know.
Suggest that we put maybe disc golf and the rifle range, since they're out there so close together, and then maybe go see Commissioner Whitfield's pickleball. You know, and then whatever else the other commissioners might think appropriate that they'd have an interest in. Maybe see, if we're looking at the pickleball, take a look at the aquatic facility. Because I don't think we've ever toured that, really.
Okay. Well, and I think we could look at all of Mills Park, might even be a field trip in itself. And with the master plan coming up and looking at it on the ground, it might be really timely to look at Mills Park and get your feedback on how we can kind of reimagine that space.
Especially in light of Highway 50 and the corridor improvement.
Maybe we could get Public Works to update on where they're at with that and how that might dovetail with the master plan.
Yeah, that's a thumbs up from me.
We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other future agenda items? Hearing none. Item 11 is public comment. Any member of the public out there want to say hi? Well, I think you all rock. Thanks for coming tonight. Hearing no other public comment, we can adjourn. Need a motion or we good? I think we could just go. Yeah, you're free to go.